Do you think this has, excuse me, something to do with a kind of end of history moment that really starts, of course, in the 90s as the internet, there's a burgeoning internet, and people like Bill Clinton, before he leaves office, is talking about we have this third way because the left-right binary in which you see the world is antiquated. And there's a third way to see the world. Does it feel like this diagonalism is kind of glomming on to these
Yeah, it's a
ideas?
right wing third way.
Right? Yeah, like a right, a further right, a further right third way.
Yeah. No, I think there's probably something to that. That and I think I think it also speaks to the superficiality of all of this stuff, that there is that interesting echo, with Clintonism and Blairism in all of this, right? Because even though the pitch is the opposite, right? So in the sort of classic, Clinton, Blair, I don't know, throw in Ehud Barak. I think Carville helped elect him too. That kind of third way is ultimately this kind of technocratic managerial sort of liberalism, like very much like on its face. It's that, right? That if you like watch old episodes of The West Wing, right, which are as a little time capsule of this era, so much of that show is about people patting themselves on the back about being like experts who are smarter than normal people. And, like if you think about like when Hillary Clinton ran for president in 2016, they just repeated over and over and over again, oh, she's the most qualified person to have ever run for president, as if this is this kind of technocratic job interview rather than having anything to do with clashing ideology, never mind clashing material interests. So that on the surface is exactly the opposite of the sort of Bannonite, populism where you say, oh, we represent the forgotten people, the people who, J.D. Vance said in his best line in his RNC speech, that our jobs were sent overseas and our children were sent off to war, which, apart from that hour, Mr. Venture Capitalist who had summer break with grandma in Appalachia, putting that aside, right? It's accurate enough as far as it goes. But those are two sort of different rhetorical strains, but ultimately, despite this like big divergence in the rhetoric that's used to sell them, these are both still claims that, oh, look, the sort of old way of thinking about politics where, you have, clashes about how to distribute resources that, that pit, workers against capitalists, in the sort of, purist version of that, critique, or, some watered down like New Deal populist version of that. That's outdated. That's yesterday's news. Man, we have the information. We have the information superhighway now, and there's no more Soviet Union. But like they're both sort of doing some version of that, right? And but like ultimately, the boring truth is that we do still live in a society that is thoroughly defined by all of the old capitalist economic hierarchies, and that the sort of core issues really are about distribution of resources and power, and whether it's sort of technocratic or pseudo-populist, when you say, oh no, all of these old ideological, distinctions have broken down and, new alliances have emerged because we're really talking about new issues. It's like, yeah, at the end of the day, you're still like all of these things, right? All of the neither left nor right pitches end up being extremely right-wing in practice, right? Mm-hmm. Like, whether it's the sort of, Clintonite, sort of socially liberal, graded on a curve for the 1990s, but extremely economically right wing version, or the Bannonite version, which is just it's just conservatism. I mean that like I always encourage anybody who's confused about this to go check out a debate that Steve Bannon did back in like 2020. I think it was before the pandemic, but I think it was like the first couple months of 2020. Maybe at the end of 2019, he did this debate with David Frum, who of course is a never Trumper Republican, who is
curried a lot of favor over the last 8 years being a never Trumper Republican.
Totally right. I mean, a million.
He's the favorite of kind of like a certain liberal Democrat that really points to this to a person like David Frum and says, "See, this is what we mean by Orange Man bad." Even the people on his team don't like him.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, look, a million resistance liberal ants, and wine moms have forwarded their nephews like David Frum articles about Trump, a very proven way. I mean, the man's gone from being the author of George W. Bush's Axis of Evil speech to true fact, to being totally rehabilitated by liberal America. But it's fascinating to me if you watch that Bannon Frum debate in Toronto, the Monk debate in late 2019, early 2020. Look, Frum throws a lot of rhetoric about Bannon, being a fascist, and Bannon throws a lot of populist rhetoric about salt of the earth deplorables at Frum. But at the end of the day, it's amazing how little time they spent arguing about policy in that debate. Like none, basically. And as I was watching it occurred to me, it's like, oh, right, because they're both Republicans. Like, at the end of the day, they want the same stuff.